Jr., inviting you to join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, here on KBLA Talk 1580. As a law school graduate and a theologian with a firm grasp of our body politic given almost 2 decades in Congress, my show is the fresh new home of an authentic, uncompromised quest for transformation and salvation, both personal and collectively, as I vigorously interrogate the theological and symbolic meanings embedded in our society. I promise to leverage my knowledge of history, theology, and both international and domestic issues to imagine an inclusive vision for the future, which I hope will inspire all of us to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a given, not just an aspiration. So join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, for 2 hours of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The blackness. Keep on. Never say die. Keep on. Blackness. Keep on. Never say die. Keep on. Blackness. Never say die. Never say die. Keep on.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent, joining you live in LA in afternoon drive time. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, D-R-N-I-I-Q, and there I am. Also, be sure to go ahead and download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. Also, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never miss an episode. Now, this is August 28th, 2025, what some people are calling one of the blackest days in American history. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, on this day, in August 28th, 1955, 14-year-old Emmett Till was murdered in Mississippi after being accused of whistling at a white woman. He was then kidnapped, beaten, shot in the head, and thrown into the Tallahatchie River with a large metal fan tied to his neck with barbed wire. Also, on this day, August 28th, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his iconic I Have a Dream speech to over 250,000 people at the Lincoln Memorial, calling for racial equality, economic justice, and an end to segregation. Cut to August 28th, 2008, where Barack Obama made history by accepting the Democratic Party's nomination to run for president of the United States, becoming the first African-American to lead a major U.S. political party ticket. August 28th, 2020, Chadwick Boseman died. That's right, Chadwick Boseman's death on August 28th, 2020 shook the world. He was just 43, but left an indelible mark by portraying iconic roles like T'Challa on Black Panther and Black trailblazers like Jackie Robinson and Thurgood Marshall. Last but certainly not least, August 28th, 1833, the Slavery Abolition Act, outlawed throughout most of the British Empire when this was signed. It gave royal assent by the British Parliament on August 28th, 1833. And so I guess it's a very important day, not just for Black folks here in America, but Black folks around the world. Switching gears, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, this isn't so bad. Red Lobster's betting on black. They're betting on black diners with their brand comeback. The New York Times is reporting that for a while, it looked like Red Lobster was dead in the water. But in 2020, the longstanding restaurant chain was sold to a Thai seafood conglomerate. And after a series of well-publicized missteps, including making the endless shrimp promotion permanent at $20 a person, the company filed for bankruptcy and closed 140 locations. Hundreds more were rumored to face the same fate, and declining popularity among young consumers in particular made the future of the Red Lobster brand pretty murky. But the company's troubles felt far away on a recent evening at a 3-level flagship location in Times Square. You know, that's a big Red Lobster in Times Square. If you've ever been there, it's big. It's big. And what's even bigger is the bet that the Red Lobster CEO is placing on black folks. 36-year-old Nigerian American who also is credited with rescuing P.F. Chang's. He appeared on Good Morning America not too long ago talking about his strategy for revitalizing the brand, a cornerstone of which is appealing to black diners. According to Damola Adamolka, Red Lobster is beloved by black people. We know that. And he understands how to capitalize on that appeal. He says, quotes, "Black Americans tell me it was a celebratory experience. And I think people were sad to lose that and want to get back. They want to get back to Red Lobster." And so walking through the restaurant in Times Square, it's true that they are coming back. At least it looks like they're coming back, and we are for it. And so if you didn't know that Red Lobster was betting on black, now you know. If you didn't know that Red Lobster had a black CEO, young Nigerian brother, now you know. And hopefully it gives you a little bit more inspiration to invest your dollars in your next meal at Red Lobster. Brother Adam Olakin, congratulations. And we look forward to having him join us here on A More Perfect Union in the near future to talk about his big bet on black. How about that? Moving along, NBC News reporting that U.S. shoppers' orders are canceled as the world shuts down some American-bound shipments. That's right. U.S. shoppers ordering smaller goods from abroad are being met with waves of cancellation notices ahead of key trade rule changes ordered by the Trump administration. On Friday, the U.S. will end the nearly century-old exemption, which allowed items worth less than $800 to be shipped to the country duty-free or without having to pay any tariffs. You hear that? In advance of the official termination of that exemption, many European nations alongside Australia and India, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, and New Zealand, they've announced suspensions of U.S.-bound shipments. Mexico's Postal Service announced today that it was suspending package deliveries to the United States because of the pending changes. U.S. e-commerce hubs have been posting notices warning customers about shipping disruptions. And last week, Etsy announced that it would no longer process purchases for goods sent via Australia Post, Canada Post, and the United Kingdom, and among others. And so that's what Etsy's saying. And online auction site eBay has likewise warned that sellers who rely on foreign postal service may have to find alternative shipping processors to get their products to U.S. customers. And so this is not the kind of news that I don't think anybody wants to hear, especially as we head into the holiday season. Is this why we haven't seen as many members of Congress participating in town halls, particularly Republican members of Congress? Is this part of the reason they don't want to hear it? You've been warned. You've been warned. Finally, the Associated Press is reporting that non-alcoholic beer and mocktails, it can actually help people stay sober or drink less, but may not be for everyone. You see, recent research shows that drinking less or nothing at all is much healthier, a much more healthier way to go. Alcohol has been linked to cancers and injuries and a host of other problems, but still, health experts say that non-alcoholic beverages are for everyone, especially if they might trigger cravings for alcohol. These so-called NA drinks, get it, non-alcoholic drinks, are meant to mimic alcohol in many ways, such as appearance, smell, and taste. There are researchers that say it's important to recognize that these are probably not one-size-fits-all products. You might see peers or friends or family members use them and have no problem with them, but it really comes back to your own individual experience. And so lots more non-alcoholic drinks out there, certainly more than I've ever seen in my lifetime. And even for people that are taking a break from alcohol, right? Maybe it's not a sobriety journey, but maybe it's just, hey, I'm just doing a reset. I'm just, taking a break. This is a different way to take a break, right? Where you can still enjoy a beverage that may mimic alcohol, but it's not alcohol. Again, everything isn't for everybody, but we've got more choices than not. More choices than not. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out.
Pour Downy in the rinse straight.
Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests. As we effort to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Corte, and I'm really delighted to welcome my next guest. I have seen her in action. From coast to coast and now overseas in London. I am so excited to talk about her new book that is coming out this fall. It's called Beyond Titles, Fearlessly Leading as Your Authentic Self. There's so many people in the world, in these internet streets, that are faking the funk. They aren't being their authentic self. And really, one of the central thesis of this book is, who are you when the titles fade away? Suezette Yasmin Robotham has a clue on that, and she's here to share that with us. Welcome to the show, Suezette.
Thank you, wonderful friend, Dr. Nii-Quartelai. You will always be Dr. Nii-Quartelai. And I'm a surprise for you. I'm back. So I have brought my talents.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm back in Brooklyn, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge you are one of the most authentic, giving, generous, sweet spirits on the universe. So thank you for supporting me along my journey. And we've been together a long time. So I'm grateful to be here on your wonderful, incredible platform.
Well, thank you. We're grateful to have you. I affectionately refer to our audience as our leaders, learners, and listeners. And so you in the right spot. Talk to us about what inspired you to become an author and commit to the page. Lessons on how we all might live more fearlessly, how we all might lead more authentic lives.
So I will tell you, I am the daughter of parents that probably had visions for me before I could even think for myself. And so my daddy told me a long time ago, he's like, you got a book in you. You got a couple of books in you. You listen to your parents and you're like, okay, at some point. And I have loved writing my entire life, but had no clue that this would be the subject matter that would become my expertise. And so if I take you back, I actually did my first TEDx talk in 2015 called Uncover, Uncovered, Finding Myself. I'm confused. Listen, it's so much going on. Uncovered, Finding My Authentic Self in the Workplace back in 2015, TEDx Beacon Street. And the premise of that talk was Deloitte University had done a study about covering in the workplace. And no surprise, there's a large portion, over 60%. They updated the study in a timely manner. So they updated the study again in 2024. The numbers haven't changed much. It's still about 61% of folks that are covering in the workplace. Covering being hiding some facet or aspect of your personality or your work life, where you're spending time that you could be productive, not really sharing or pretending to be who you're not in the workplace. And so I did that in 2015. And in 2017, Fortune 500 bank approached me about doing a training on my TEDx talk. So shout out to them. And so began this journey of me actually doing trainings for companies around the topic of how do you create environments that allow people to be vulnerable, to really lead from a place of empathy and ultimately being able to be authentic in the workplace. And so 10 years later, almost 10 years later, perfectly, I did my TEDx talk on November 14th, 2015. The book comes out October 21st, 2025. Girlfriend of mine, actually in London, was like, you need to write a book. And I'm like, man, you've been talking to my daddy in the spirit realm. And so she introduced me to her publisher. It didn't necessarily work out with her publisher, but another friend was like, we don't take no as an answer, and introduced me to her publisher. And so my book came to life a little less than a year later. And so really grateful to be able to, one, be talking about a subject matter that I actually have the opportunity to live and lead from a place of authenticity.
Well, I mean, I totally respect that and admire that, because really you were ahead of your time. I mean, there are so many organizations out there that, 10 years ago were saying, hey, we want to be a place that welcomes you to bring all of yourself to the workplace. And now 10 years later, we're seeing, a radical departure in some cases from that. Talk to us about what advice you might offer to folks who may have dedicated a number of years at a company or organization where they came in feeling like, all the aspects of their life and personality were welcome in the workplace, only to find now that they're being told, just do your job and leave the rest at home.
So I think people get uncomfortable, and let's just call a thing a thing. People get uncomfortable with the idea of bringing their whole selves to work, right? So there's already this hesitation of like, what does my whole self mean anyway? And what I'm talking about in this book is when you think about, and if you extrapolate this beyond the workplace, if you think about the places that you're choosing to spend time and energy, it all comes back to the idea that it should be in alignment in what you actually value. It should be in alignment with the vision that you have for your life. It should be in alignment with how you actually live and want to be, right? And so authenticity for me, because people will conflate it with different things. So I was watching, with the nieces and nephews on TikTok, a young lady that, I don't know, you probably have seen this video. Young lady goes to work. They tell her outfit is not professional because she has on business casual attire and sneakers, right? And so she was like, they say they want me to come as my whole self, and my sneakers are not my whole self. Sis, we're not talking about not adhering to policy and procedure and protocol. What we're talking about is when you show up in this environment, is the way that you think, the way that you process, the way that you strategize, is it valued in that space? Are you able to show up and in conversation, maybe be the quiet person in a meeting, but be viewed as decisive, intentional when you do speak up, right? It's less about the physical appearance, right? Style is a reflection of authenticity, and more about the ways that we feel, the ways that we are, the ways that we lead, the ways that we think, the ways that we process. Are we in spaces where we actually feel safe enough to do that? And if it's not, why are you choosing to stay there? Getting really crisp and clear on your why. Because a lot of times people want to pivot into roles and pivot into organizations and not really actually center, like, what does this mean for me as a person? How does this align to my vision, my goals, my values? And is it a place where I actually feel like I can have impact? And so it's actually those clicks into the more about who you are, your values, your perspective, and how we show up. So my advice then, the long-winded answer to you for people who are like, organizations and companies are not asking me to show up as we once were told to, is your why, right? Like, why do you continue to show up in that space? And if it's no longer values aligned, is there an opportunity for you to consider, right? Because I've always found for myself, discomfort is a signal for change. Is it an opportunity for you to begin to transition?
I mean, and if anybody is making a transition, that means you got to make a plan, right? So this isn't about, oh my gosh, got this new memo saying that, I can't be my full self at work. Time to put in my 2-week notice. No, I mean, it may be time to begin to reevaluate and to make a plan. And as you just said, to get clear on what your why is, because, part of what, I have seen and heard and even experienced myself is that to the extent that why is fuzzy, sometimes that's the source of our discomfort.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times, right, the why is I feel like a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to process the why because we've been told that success is ultimately like, monetary success and titular success is like the ultimate feat for us, right? So you want to be the senior vice president or you want to be the executive vice president, but have no clue to why. And then wake up one day and you're like, I'm so dissatisfied with my life, or the quality of life for me that I'm leading is not great because you've never anchored in the why, right? And a lot of times if we are to really like sit with ourselves and unpack that, even if you end up staying in a place, to your point, around a plan, we can find other outlets and ways to engage that allow us to find those pieces that may not exist within the context of the workplace.
Well, there are a number of folks out there that are really excited about your forthcoming book, Beyond Titles, Fearlessly Leading as Your Authentic Self. Some of the advanced praise that you've received for this book. Somebody said that Suzette's created something rare, a book that doesn't just preach authenticity, but gives you actual tools to excavate it from underneath years of conditioning. This isn't feel-good theory. It's a workbook that demands the hard work of becoming whole. When we come forward, we're going to talk about some of the work that folks are going to be exposed to when they purchase this book. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with author Suezette Yasmin Robotham.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Reverend Al Sharpton, Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, and thousands marched on Wall Street today, pushing back against the Trump administration's rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies.
No justice! What do we want?
Sharpton says the protest is a reminder of the power of Black Americans and their dollars, while the administration calls DEI initiatives discriminatory. Black Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser says Trump's federal crime crackdown has reduced carjackings and made neighborhoods feel safer, but she remains concerned about residents living in fear with federal law enforcement patrolling the streets. And the Washington Nationals are hosting HBCU Day Friday at Nationals Park, featuring the Morgan State Marching Band, recognition of Howard's MEAC champion softball team, and a post-game show with Ja Rule and Ashanti. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Good news for drivers on the 2 in Atwater Village heading southbound just before the 5. That crash on the shoulder is clearing out. Traffic is still thinning out, so prepare for some hefty backup. We're heading to Baldwin Hills on La Brea heading southbound. We have a closure between Coliseum and Stalker Street because of a water main break. Now, the northbound lanes are still open, but to avoid traffic altogether, try to take La Cienega to Slauson Avenue.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and more for a child in poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The World Tennis Association, the governing body for professional and amateur tennis, does not like bad behavior from its players. Daniil Medvedev of Russia was fined $42,500 for his behavior at the U.S. Open during his first-round loss Sunday night. It's debatable whether Jelena Ostapenko should get a similar fine for her conduct Wednesday night towards Taylor Townsend. but Ostapenko deserves some type of significant punishment for telling Townsend, an African-American from Chicago, that she has no class and no education. The comments from Ostapenko, a native of Latvia, were disrespectful, not in the spirit of sportsmanship, and racially insensitive. Townsend dismissed the racial overtones of the confrontation, but the WTA and U.S. Open should not dismiss Ostapenko's behavior. If they do, that says an awful lot about the culture in tennis. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., inviting you to join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, here on KBLA Talk 1580. As a law school graduate and a theologian with a firm grasp of our body politic given almost 2 decades in Congress, my show is the fresh new home of an authentic, uncompromised quest for transformation and salvation, both personal and collectively, as I vigorously interrogate the theological and symbolic meanings embedded in our society. I promise to leverage my knowledge of history, theology, and both international and domestic issues to imagine an inclusive vision for the future, which I hope will inspire all of us to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a given, not just an aspiration. So join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, for 2 hours of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're an African-American mom who is pregnant or have a baby under 6 months old, you deserve care that lifts, listens, and lasts. Black Infant Health is for you. It's a free program with individual support, group sessions, and resources to start your mothering journey. BIH makes space for moms and their families to create community. Learn more about the programs in Los Angeles County. Check us out at blackinfanthealth.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me!
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Corte, and she is Suezette Yasmin Robotham. She is the author of a new book called Beyond Titles, Fearlessly Leading as Your Authentic Self. Run, don't walk to order this book. I believe it's on pre-sale. Where can people go to order the book?
It is on presale.com, so folks can get it from my website, www.suezette.com, and order it from your favorite bookseller, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Harvard Bookstore. I was like, I didn't get into Harvard when I applied, but my book is in their store. So talk about a journey.
We love it. We love it. We love it. Listen, Suezette, your professional tagline is talent is my expertise, connecting is my gift, culture is my passion, and creating access and opportunity is my ministry. When you talk about your ministry being about creating access and opportunity, what do you mean by that based on your journey?
So I'm a first-generation American. Both of my parents are from the beautiful island of Jamaica. And so my mother's the very first person that came to this country on either side of my family. And so I grew up in a household where I saw regularly the give back through family reunification in our household. And so for a long time, I would want to talk about creating access and opportunity because it was the right thing to do. And as an adult in my 40s, it was the thing that I was raised to know and understand as the thing that you should do. And so when I think about my life's journey, you know, I've worked in public education, in the Office of the Chief of Staff at Atlanta Public Schools. I've worked for organizations like Teach for America. I now work in the talent acquisition space and tech, creating access and opportunity to folks that may not have otherwise had options, right? Because of a host of factors. And so creating access and opportunity in my day job looks like ensuring that we are giving everyone an equal opportunity to have a future and a career in tech. Creating access and opportunity beyond the title of what I do by day means giving folks access to resources and tools to really find what centers them, what anchors them, what grounds them in their values so they can show up and be more.
What do you say to people right now that feel a sense of scarcity when it comes to access to opportunity? It's no secret that there is an all-out assault on diversity, equity, and inclusion as a framework to create more access and opportunity for all. I always like to remind people that DEI is one framework. It was never intended to be the only framework, right? It was never intended to be a long-term framework. It's just a framework. And so what do you say to people out there that are behaving and are feeling a sense of anxiety because of this scarcity mindset around opportunity?
So, Fred, can we have the conversation? Are we going to have the conversation?
Let's do it.
Okay. A lot of people had angst and were in an uproar when everything started to roll back. And my challenge to folks that felt ire in that moment was, you shouldn't be mad that those things are being rolled back. You should be mad at the pace and the speed that they're being rolled back. Anything that is a business priority, anything that is a business imperative, anything that is built into a business strategy can't be rolled back in that way, right? And so there is a level of accountability around, to your point, it was simply a framework, but how do we ensure that these things are not seen just as the right thing to do, that they are the impactful business imperative that folks should be doing? And I also will honor that some of the angst comes from up until this point, especially folks that were going into roles as diversity, equity, inclusion practitioners. When I'm talking to those folks now, they are still only defining themselves from the perspective and the title of, I do DEI. And so I challenge them. I'm like, what is doing DEI? Do you mean that you've led and designed a high impact program that has allowed people to do X, Y, Z, right? And so that is why I think my book is also timely, because with the pace at which emerging technologies are pushing us to think, to not be able to talk about your skills and how things like AI and generative AI and agentic AI are enhanced and can augment your skill set, folks are going to be behind anyway. The age of AI and the more accessible AI has come to us means that a title is insufficient without being able to talk about the skill and how you will have impact with that skill set, right? And so even simply talking about, hey, I'm a program manager is insufficient. It's what does your specific skill set bring to this organization and how will it help to drive impact? And so I think what has been exciting and what I actually really appreciate with where we're at from a technology perspective is it's making us, again, go deeper and really think about what our skill set is and what it is that we offer and what the opportunities are actually for us also to grow. For me personally, I think right now we are not at a place for us to think about AI and humans being separate. AI is not that smart, right? I don't know if you have had any arguments with ChatGPT, the 5 recently, but it will not hold on to the fact that I said I don't want any M dashes, right? And so what I think is really important to understand about where we are from a skills and a technology perspective is it's okay. Yes, AI exists. Some of the more entry-level, mundane tasks it's taking over, but it still requires the meta-analysis, the cognitive, leadership of humans to drive it forward. And so it's how do you take AI and leverage AI to make you that much better, right? Because there are limits right now to what AI can do, but there are no limits to what we can do. And so how do we enhance our skill set with it?
I think it's also another reminder that AI is still behind in terms of being able to operate in culture, right? And so if you go on ChatGPT, you say God is good, right? ChatGPT ain't gonna say all the time, and all the time God is good. That's not what ChatGPT ain't there yet, right? It may never get there, but it's a reminder that it can't be a substitute for our lived experience. It can't be a substitute for the oral histories that have been passed down from generation to generation. It cannot be a substitute for the multi-heritage experiences that so many of us have. I mean, you say that as somebody of Jamaican descent. I say that as somebody who's of Ghanaian descent on my dad's side. And there are so many other folks out there that also share that experience. And so, I've got to ask you, how is the workbook portion of this book? How do you think it's going to help folks to prepare for, the age of artificial intelligence, meeting the age of significant rollbacks when it comes to DEI? How does your book, particularly the workbook, how does it become a tool to help people get ahead when there are forces out there that are determined to push us back?
So I think the thing I love the most about the book is the fact that it is a workbook, and it's built on a framework called for the adult learner and the constant learner skill set.
That's
okay.
Right. That's
right. I think what this book does, it allows people to have a simple framework for which they learn to connect and reflect on their lived experience, really unpack, right, and get deep, drill down into, because a lot of times we ask ourselves questions but won't take the 2 or 3 clicks beneath that to actually really explore and create space for us to really expand like our understanding of self. It is called a self workbook, and then gives them resources and tools to activate. So I don't leave you hanging at the end of the book. I actually, I asked the question multiple times, like, who are you without titles, but then guide folks into practice. Like when you were a child, right? I might ask you this question, friend. When you were a child, before anybody told you it was wrong to be something, what is it that you wanted to be?
Ooh, good question. Good question. What did I want to be? I wanted to be consequential. And so, but probably before I could spell consequential, right? Like, my spirit wanted to be consequential. And I remember being 6 or 7 years old. Nelson Mandela was on world tour after having been freed from being in prison for 27 years. And one of the last stops on his U.S. tour was the Oakland Coliseum. And so my parents took me and my brothers and our family members, extended family members, everybody went out to the Oakland Coliseum that day. I felt like everyone in the world was there. And without knowing the fullness of Nelson Mandela's story, I connected with him. I connected that he was a consequential figure, that he managed to become a unifying figure and to help people to become their better selves. And so that continues to be a model for me and a model for the man that I've aspired to be and the man that I'm still becoming.
Well, you know what I love about that? You didn't say a firefighter. You didn't say a pastor. You didn't limit to a title. You grounded that in an impact. And so that is what my book wants to get people to the point of. You wanted to be able to connect people you wanted to be able to have a deep and meaningful impact on your community, right? So there's so many different things that came in that. And so that is what my book does. It gets people back to a space of AI is literally changing what we're even hiring for in terms of like skill set, right? So I was at an event and Chief Technology Officer from McKinsey was like, have you all heard of ethicist? And I was like, I don't know what an ethicist is, right? Prompt engineering, like this is all these new forms of things, right? And so what we know is titles will evolve and spaces will change and what is required of us from leadership will change. But what you remember is that you wanted to be consequential because you wanted to have an impact on community. You wanted to connect people to greatness and to freedom, right? And that's what my book is about, freedom. So look at us being an activation and a manifestation of what the book is about. But again, go ahead.
You're right. That is exactly what the book is about, getting us beyond titles. And I know that there are people who are listening. They're like, really, Nii-Quartelai? You wanted to be consequential at 6 or 7 years old? Yes, without using that language necessarily. But, yes, that is what I wanted to be as a kid. When I got to be about 11, 12, 13 years old, I knew I wanted to be a journalist. And that's why I oftentimes refer to journalism as my first love. It's my first love. Now, I've gone and I've done other things, but I have returned in this season to my first love. And so for all the folks out there in the chat, there you have it.
But and when we talk about the book as a tool and a resource, if we talk about being young, because I'm still young, Black professionals, we often don't give ourselves space to really do that reflection back to actually, when I was 6, I wanted to be consequential because I was inspired by someone like Nelson Mandela. Like, when's the last time you thought about that? Now, I know that you are deeply reflective, right? But like what my book allows people to do is actually pause the world for whatever moments you can give to it and actually like give yourself some space. The second chapter in the book actually is very much focused on mental health and the fact that the work starts from the inside, right? The deep commitment to, I know that, mental health can be really expensive, but the fact of the matter is until we do the healing, until we do the work of actually like resolving the trauma and the things that have impacted us to date to really strip those things away from our identity so that we can start fresh and, start new, we can't really move forward. And so what my book is for anyone that picks it up, for everyone that picks it up, is a space distinctly for you to do the work of really processing through what matters to you most and gives you the space to also then really talk about who it is that you want to be. I think far too often we talk about ourselves in the context of a title or in the context of a relationship, but this is like, actually like, no, who do I, Suezette, want to be? Why does that matter? And how can I take that back into the world and into the workplace?
And also, how can we heal those things that are holding us back? I often say on air and off air, one of the most radical things that we can do is heal.
Yeah.
Because when we don't heal, it spills out into everything. Our work relationships, our romantic relationships, our relationship with the community, right? Our relationship with the world, right? And so one of the most radical things that we can do, we really are about changing the world. It starts with each and every one of us as an agent of that change. And you got to heal the stuff that's holding you back. And one of the things that I love about this book is the workbook portion that helps us to do exactly that, to begin to get in touch with those things that are beyond the surface and, begin that healing part so that we're not hanging on to titles like they are the life raft, right? We are the life and the light. And so thank you, Suezette, for being the light and the author of Beyond Titles, Fearlessly Leading as Your Authentic Self.
Thank you for having me, friend. Bless you so much.
Bless you too. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, the quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Lot to talk about.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that deeply impacts Black families. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and the risk is twice as high compared to white adults. But AD isn't just forgetting a name or losing track of time. Signs of early AD could be repeating questions, missing appointments, or struggling with bills and daily tasks. These things aren't a normal part of aging. Here's the good news. Treatments are available that may help if AD is diagnosed early. If you notice changes in memory or daily routines, whether in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatalsearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more about the signs and symptoms and a potential treatment option. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Dr. Renee here. Did you know this time of year is considered peak asthma season because we typically see a spike in asthma-related hospitalizations? If you have asthma and are having difficulty breathing despite medication, it's time to check in with your doctor so you can help avoid landing yourself in the hospital this season. To learn more about managing your asthma, visit www.luma-edu.com. That's LUMA-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Next week, I'm looking forward to welcoming back to the show the Honorable Malcolm Kenyatta, representing the people of the 181st District, North Philadelphia. Malcolm has been a guest on this show from the very beginning. In fact, for those of you who've been rocking with us for years, you know that Malcolm Kenyatta, Representative Kenyatta from Pennsylvania, was my very first guest. He was my very first guest on the show when we launched. And so I always enjoyed checking in with him, tapping in with him as somebody who has long been on the front lines. The Honorable Malcolm Kenyatta is taking a long walk, as Julie from Philly would say. In fact, the DNC vice chair is protesting cuts by walking 105 miles across Pennsylvania. Democratic National Committee chair, vice chair, Malcolm Kenyatta plans to walk more than 100 miles in Pennsylvania to raise awareness for cuts to the state's mass transit services, arguing that they're what working class voters can expect under more Republican control. The state representative plans to start his walk tomorrow on Friday from Philadelphia to the state's capital in Harrisburg, hoping to nationalize a local fight in a key battleground state. We, of course, will be among the very first interviews that he does when he reaches Harrisburg. Look, there are so many issues out there where folks are rightfully protesting. But one of the things that we sometimes take for granted is our public transportation system. We just assume that, okay, the buses will run, the trains will run. Well, somebody's got to fund that. And right now you have folks in power that don't. So think about what ramifications that has in terms of the cost of just being able to get to work, the cost of going to pick up your kids, the cost of running everyday errands, right? What used to be one bus or one train then becomes multiple. And that's if there's still buses and trains available on that route. Some people might have to resort to Uber and Lyft and other rideshare apps, and we know how expensive that can be. And so hat tip to the Honorable Malcolm Kenyatta for taking a far from glamorous 105-mile walk from Philadelphia to Harrisburg in order to wake us up and get our attention and remind us that what happens in the Keystone State, what happens in Pennsylvania, may soon happen to us wherever we are in these United States. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village helps us produce a more perfect union. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Brother Andy, to our show producers, Faraji, Art, and Journey, and to each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners. We curate the show every day with you in mind as a reminder to do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and you've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Share details. A New York judge has dismissed a sexual assault lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, ruling the 2015 case was filed too late under state law. The rapper has faced about 80 similar lawsuits, many still ongoing, and remains jailed in New York awaiting sentencing